Hello, hello. Good morning for the next 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes to 12 here in my neck of the woods. And I'm going to squeeze in this book read between going down and getting my laundry out of the dryer. I just switched it over to the washing machine. So I thought I would take this hour and do our book read. So it's been a while. We're talking about energy right now and how our bodies produce energy. And a recap on what our last read, I'm only going to read a little bit of what we read the last time because I like to kind of recap. I picked this part out. We read, energizing and exhausting are not diametrically opposed. The things that give you energy also cost you energy, but that cost has a return. The things that energize you the most might actually cost you the most energy. They might be the hardest things that you do. They might be the most difficult challenges in your life, but when they are energizing, you do not find yourself in a deficit of energy because whatever it costs you, the return is greater. I picked that part out to recap. So, yeah, we're talking about energy. And I do have to apologize. Normally I turn the AC off, but I cannot do it now because I will be sitting here dripping in puddles of sweat if I turn off the AC, and I really have no other place to make my videos other than this travel trailer right now. Woo, woo, yay. Thank you, God, for having a roof over my head. I'm serious. I try to be grateful. Every time I complain, I just have to be grateful and turn that complaint into a good thing. Okay, so today we're going to read about emotional energy. Emotional energy. Ooh, that might be right up my alley today. And if we have time, we can read Stand Up to Your Pain. Ooh, I'm going to read them both today. This is something I really need to hear today. So here we go. Grab a snack. I almost said grab a drink and a snack. Grab a snack and a drink and get ready because we are about to read our book. Here we go. Emotional energy. Does your life energize you, or does it steal every ounce of strength you need simply to exist? In my experience, most of us experience life in unrealistic extremes. We either love our lives or hate them. We either have lives we long for or long for different ones completely. We are either completely energized by the lives we have or completely drained by them. We experience life in extremes, but that's not the reality in which we live. Hopefully you can find something to love even about the things you hate. I just did that. I complained about the travel trailer, and then I said, thank you, God, for having a roof over my head. Even when people hate their jobs, they often find a way to compensate by living the lives they love on the weekends. The problem is that it's impossible to segment your life on a permanent basis. If you hate your job but love your marriage, eventually one will affect and infect the other. I like that. It's true. If you are unhappy in your relationships, that unhappiness will begin to affect every other area of your life. Negative emotions such as bitterness, unforgiveness, jealousy, envy, and even greed will send your energy in a direction that does not replenish your soul, but in fact leaves you feeling lifeless and empty. But it's not just negative emotions. You were never intended to live life in neutral. To live a life that leaves you feeling indifferent or apathetic is a path to a slow death. If getting up in the morning is a struggle and you find yourself lacking the energy to engage life fully, you can be certain that you are not living the life that you were created to live. This almost makes me want to cry. You are created to live a life of passion and compassion. When you live a life of passion, it moves you to action. When you live a life of compassion, it moves you beyond yourself into a life of service. Negative emotions turn all your energy inward and you become an emotional black hole. When you live a life of passion, you harness your energy to be fully engaged in the creative process called life. The more passion you have for something, the more energy you have to give to it. Those who seem to have boundless energy are the ones living their lives for their deepest passion. Where then does passion come from? Passion is love on fire. This is why the warrior knows this to be true, that love is the most powerful force in the world, that love is the warrior's greatest strength, that the way of the warrior is always love. And let me just pause that real quick, because the verse of the day today in the Bible app is how we must love one another deeply, and that love covers a multitude of sins. So how fitting that we're reading this right now. The warrior has mastery over their internal world. The warrior, and that was in 1 Peter chapter 4, by the way. The warrior has mastery over their internal world. The warrior understands the process required to expend, preserve, and renew their energy. They know that their energy flows out of their passions, that their passion must flow out of love, that it is love that gives them ultimate joy. Wait. Yes, and that is joy in which they find their strength. The way of the warrior has no room for anger or hate or violence. Those are the emotions of weaker men. The strength of the warrior comes not in hate, but in love, not in anger, but in joy, and not in greed, but in passion. The warrior who has found ultimate joy can overcome anything. They have learned that the struggles of life are more than one can bear without joy. Scripture tells us that the joy of the Lord is our strength. For all the battles we will fight, for all the struggles we will face, for all the wounds we will bear, only those people who are full of joy will find the strength to rise above them all. To live a life of passion fueled by love and joy is to be fully alive. Negative emotions pose as fuel or passion. And although they do not cause you to burn, they do not lead you to create, but rather to destroy. Anger can look like passion. Hate can look like intention. Greed can look like motivation. Dark emotions such as hate, anger, and greed redirect energy into a destructive force. In fact, all they do is steal your future and turn your soul not into a fire, but a pit of ashes. I was born in San Salvador, El Salvador. I came to the States as a child and was unable to return to my homeland for many years because of my country's history of violence. Most of the world knows El Salvador as a land of war and endless revolutions. Only out of a history that has known nothing but war and violence could an expression of our inhumanity have been created in the likes of the international criminal gang MS-13. Children with so much promise and potential, young men with incredible intelligence and talent facing hopeless futures and fueled by rage and greed became the founders of one of the world's most violent and inhumane gangs. Negative emotions can make us forces, but no matter how much power we may acquire, it will never turn us into creative forces. Movements born out of anger, hatred, fear, or greed only harness our energy to make us destructive forces. There are other negative emotions that move us not into pattern of destructiveness, but one of lethargy and apathy. Nothing will steal your energy like worry and fear. Worry consumes your energy without productivity. I have spent too many moments of my life worrying, far more than I would ever care to admit. Yet I can say without exception that my worry has never made anything better. Worry is a waste of energy. Emotions such as anxiety and stress are the result of unharnessed energy misdirected by our fears and doubts. Fear feels like a fire, except that it does not create light, only darkness. When we are afraid, our energy is consumed by the darkness of our souls. Fear is like a black hole consuming all the light. It steals all our energy and leaves us powerless. It is the same with doubt. When you doubt, you hesitate. When the warrior hesitates, he faces certain defeat. We are told that one who doubts is like the wave of a sea blown and tossed by the wind. The person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. When you doubt, your energy wars against itself. It becomes unharnessed and unfocused and loses its power. There is a strength that comes when you have confidence that even if you fail, you've given yourself to the right battle. We spend too much of our lives trying to make sure we are right about the what, the where, the when, and the how, and too little time making sure we are right about the why. The why is the one battle you need to be right about. This is the one area you cannot afford to be wrong about. You can be uncertain about everything else, but you need to know your why. Your why is the light that will guide your way. Your why is the light that moves you forward in the darkness, and your why is why you are alive. If you don't know your why, you will merely exist and not live. Your why is your truth, and when you know your truth, when you know the truth, it sets you free. When you know your why, you know your strength. Your why gives meaning to the struggle. Your why gives purpose to every battle. Your why brings intentions even to your suffering. When you know the why of your life, you find the strength to live. It shouldn't surprise us that when you live in the light, we find our greatest energy. And the contrary is also true. When we live in darkness, we lose our strength. The greatest darkness is to have no meaning for our lives. To live without meaning is to walk in darkness. Far too much of human history has been written by individuals fueled by the wrong passions. Dictators, tyrants, and despots have marked, I hope I said that right, despots, have marked the human story with destruction and despair. The unwritten backdrop of these stories is that there were endless multitudes powerless to do anything about the violence that overtook them. A careful study of history reminds us that there are often those who had it within their power to end violence, to end injustice, and to end poverty. The painful truth is they simply didn't care enough to act. Those fueled by greed and hatred will always prevail if their only opposition are those living in apathy and indifference. The great wealth of the world will always be held in the wrong hands if only the greedy and are driven to create wealth. Too much of history has been paved by those with destructive intentions. Yet for me, this is not the greatest tragedy of the human story. The great tragedy is the backstory that remains untold. We are simply watching history happen before our very eyes, rather than choosing to pay the price to change its course. The future will be created by those who have the courage to create it. A better world will happen only if we find the strength and energy to give our lives to it. Imagine what would happen if we woke up in the morning energized with hope, consumed by love, and empowered by faith. Imagine the power of those who no longer choose to stand in the middle, but instead choose to stand for love against hate, for forgiveness against bitterness, for hope against despair, and for freedom against injustice. Imagine if each person who today is simply lamenting the decay of society would instead gather all their energy and begin to do something to make the world just a little bit better. All evil needs in order to prevail is for good men to do nothing. But if we do nothing, can we by any measure be called good? The warrior has learned to never underestimate their strength. It is only when you choose the way of the warrior that you discover how strong you actually are and realize there is far more in you than you may ever know. Where once you may have seen pain as the boundary of your limitations, now you know there is a path you can travel if you are willing to walk through your pain. On the afternoon that I left Huntington Memorial Hospital, approximately 18 hours after having 6 hours of surgery to remove cancer, I was finally allowed to go home, but only after being forced to eat at least one meal of hospital food. Now, that was almost unbearable pain. Kim drove me home. Kim is his wife, the author's wife, Edwin's wife. Erwin, not Edwin. Kim drove me home with a concerned entourage of my son. Hold on. Kim drove me home with a concerned entourage of my son, my daughter, and her husband, along with other caring family and friends. When I got home, it looked as if Kim had prepared our bedroom for me to never leave the house again. She bought a full-size refrigerator and put it in our room so I could have food and drinks available at all times. She had brought in an electronic chair that turned into a bed with a push of a button so that I would never have to move using my own strength. No one expected me to recover quickly or to push myself too hard. If I have learned one thing in life, it's that if you don't use your strength, you'll lose it. There is no comfortable way to escape my limitations. I left the hospital with a catheter, which is a barbaric device used for male humiliation. That by itself would encourage a person to stay hidden in their bedroom. Walking up and down stairs was another real deterrent to my desire to escape the confines of our bedroom. There had been talk that the catheter would have to remain in for a month, and that just seemed unacceptable to me. At my insistence, the catheter was removed after about a week. It's a strange thing to discover a weakness where once you had a strength you previously took for granted. Regaining the strength to control my own body has not lacked a profound sense of humiliation and frustration. The process of regaining my strength, and in fact reclaiming it, has been more textured and layered than I have ever imagined. About 2 weeks after my surgery, I called Dr. Khalili, who had performed the surgery and was overseeing my recovery, and I asked him what the world's record was for recovering from this surgery and returning to playing basketball. Evidently, there was no world's record logged, but that by itself excited me, as I have always wanted to hold one. I cannot overstate how protective my wife and kids have been through my entire recovery. I am surrounded by my caring people who worry about the choices I make when it comes to my well-being. Having been an athlete, I understand the relationship between pain and progress. There is no progress without pain. If there is no pain, there is no progress. In that regard, you become the boundary of your own freedom. This much is also true of the way of the warrior. Progress requires pain and sacrifice. You establish what you can and cannot do. Talent will never be the ultimate cause of your success, and you may have unbelievable talent. You may have been genetically endowed with such extraordinary natural abilities that your potential far surpasses everyone else in your field. But it is not talent that determines your limitations, it's tenacity. The warrior's legacy can be written only on the other side of their pain. The way of the warrior teaches us that we cannot stand in our greatness if we cannot stand in our pain. And I'm going to stop there for now. So today we read about emotional energy, and we read about how to stand up to our pain. And we're going to continue in our next video, and we're going to read about rising above our pain and how there's strength in numbers. And on we go until we finish our book. Now, I couldn't help but, as I was reading this, I couldn't help but think about my own life and think about the areas where I struggle, which is a lot. When he was reading about the most important thing is to know why, the whys are the most important, that really stuck with me, because I can't tell you how many times I've asked God why. Why am I like this? Why, when I was in high school, did I have to lose my mom at such a crucial time in my life? Why did that stunt all of my growth and opportunity sitting in that grief when I should have been figuring out my career choice so I could be successful in this life? Why did I stop growing at 17? Because of that trauma for so many years, you know? What is my purpose now? Why am I here? I really have nothing to show for my life at this point at 47 years old. I have 3 beautiful children. Those are my 3 just absolute wonderful accomplishments in my life. And that's really, that's all I need. But is it bad to want more? Is it bad to want more of a purpose other than bringing 3 beautiful children into the world? I never went to college. I never earned a degree. My career pretty much ended when I divorced my first husband, because then I started just dwindling. I just kind of, looking back, being autistic, I didn't know it then, but I wasn't capable, I wasn't able to get through that pain and trauma. I didn't have a support system, and so I crumbled. And because I made the choices I made, and I didn't have a support system, and these aren't excuses, this is what happened. My life pretty much turned into something I never imagined it would turn into. Like, looking back, even to my childhood, I ask myself why. And I can sit here and tell you, I don't know my why right now. I don't know my why. But I do understand when he writes about standing up to our pain. And I do understand that there is no progress without pain. I understand the relationship between pain and progress. If there is no pain, there is no progress. So I understand that. And as I read this portion of the book to us today, I'm left with so many thoughts and a lot more content for my prayers, I have to say. A lot more topics to talk to God about. This book is really getting me to think. This book is teaching me how to be a warrior, and I hope it's doing the same for you. I hope this book is causing you to ask those questions about yourself. I hope this book is getting you to really think about your life and what you're doing with it. How you're moving forward. Are you moving forward? Or are you just going with the flow? Are you just going with the motions? You know, just really think about stuff. Because this book, I tell you what, this is going to be on my mind for the rest of the day. The part where he wrote about the whys. Where was it? I have to read it again, real quick. Your why is the light that will guide your way. See? I feel like I don't see that light. I understand that God is light, and I just honestly, with all my doubts and all my uncertainties, I just cling to Jesus. I just cling to God, because I know that one day the lights will come on. I know something in my brain will eventually click, and I will understand the purpose, my purpose within my life, within myself. I know it'll happen. I just need to keep looking to God. We all do. We all need to do this. If you're uncertain about your why, cling to God. Pray for wisdom. Pray for understanding. And it will happen. I have faith in God. God is perfect. And God is nothing but truth and light. And if we cling to Him and if we daily seek Him, we will understand our why. And that's what I plan to do. Your why is the light that moves you forward in the darkness, and your why is why you are alive. If you don't know your why, you will merely exist and not live. See, that's where I feel like I'm at right now. Your why is your truth, and when you know the truth, it sets you free. When you know your why, you know your strength. Your why gives meaning to the struggle. Exactly. Your why gives meaning to the struggle. I know a lot about struggle. I've struggled my whole life. So my why gives meaning to all of that. Your why gives purpose to every battle. Keep going. That's what I hear in my head right now. Just keep going. Keep fighting the good fight. Your why gives purpose to every battle. Your why brings intention even to your suffering. When you know the why to your life, you will find the strength to live. Well, I have strength to live. I'm still working on knowing the why to my life, though. It shouldn't surprise us that when we live in the light, we find our greatest energy. And the contrary is also true. When we live in darkness, we lose our strength. The greatest darkness is to have no meaning for our lives. To live without meaning is to walk in darkness. So I pretty much feel like I'm living in the gray. I'm not completely in the dark, but I'm not completely in the light yet. This is just me. I'm just giving my insight to what we read. But think about it for yourself. Think about it with your life. And ask yourself the questions. What is your why? So, okay. I am at almost a half an hour. And I have another half an hour to go before I can go get my comforter and sheets out of the dryer. So, with that being said, I'll let you go. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to do more research on the Book of Ruth. And when my phone is sideways like this, I told you, it just messes me up. I don't know where to look, so I'm looking everywhere but at the camera. Because I think that's the camera right there. My mom always told me not to point. I can't believe I just did that. My husband and I, if we go into a public place or something, he does that. He'll point at stuff, and I'm like, don't point. I think of my mom's voice going, pointing is rude. Did your parents ever tell you never to point? Or is that an old school thing? Anyway. So, okay, with that being said, I'm going to go do some study on the Book of Ruth later after I finish some paperwork. I don't like paperwork, but I got to finish it because I got to return it to the person that gave it to me. And just finish up my day of putting my bed back together after my dog puked all over it. So, anyway. The universe is against me today. I tell you what, guess what happened after I made my video this morning about gratitude? My husband cut a tin can in half the other day to do something with his grill. He has this gadget where you can put a can in this cylinder and then you put a chicken over that. Well, anyway, he was cutting the tin can here at the table, and a shard of the tin must have fell on the floor because guess what? It went right into my heel earlier. And the pain jolted right up my arms. It hit a nerve. Whatever nerve that shard of tin hit in my foot, I felt it in all the nerves in my body. It was really weird, but it hurt really, really bad. So I'm telling you, today, I don't know what it is about today. All these things, all these weird things are happening to me today. It's like, It's okay though. I'm a warrior. I got this. So, I'll let you go. Until next time, stay prayed up. Have gratitude. Stay grateful, okay? And I don't know where I'm looking. I guess this is where I look when my phone is sideways. So, until next time, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.